This is the Dataverse podcast brought to you by SDFC. Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca and welcome to the Dataverse podcast. Our topic today is DAFNI, and with me is Brian Matthews, leader of the DAFNI team. Welcome, Brian.
Hello, Rebecca, and hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here this afternoon.
Oh, good. So, DAFNI stands for Data and Analytics Facility for National Infrastructure. But what does that mean? What is DAFNI?
So DAFNI is a platform that we've been building over the last 4 years. Is a computing and data platform to support researchers, and researchers in particular working in the field of national infrastructure research. So these are researchers in engineering and environment who want to use the platform to extend and share their research. Things like roads, railways, the way we deliver energy, the way that we live, where we build our houses, the way that we have water supplies into our houses, and waste collection and disposal. So those sorts of fundamental infrastructure in the way that we build our lives. So, and as there are investments in infrastructure, we need to be able to plan those correctly so we can apply the infrastructure in the right places. So people write computer models to investigate that. So they might look at the effect of, if you build a new railway or a new road, that means that you might want to build houses or towns on that road. And where are the best places to do that? What if you do that, how's that going to affect the economy? If you then build those houses in one place, you need to supply them with water and electricity. You make sure you don't want to do them on a floodplain. So you want to be able to run lots and lots of different simulations or scenarios to investigate how to best plan our lives. And we're supporting researchers doing that. We're looking at a world that's ever more complex, so and with ever more data involved. So people want to be able to scale up, make those models bigger, and they also want to be able to connect them together and share them and work together. And what we do in DAFNI is provide a place where they can come together, they can bring their different models and simulations, connect them together, apply them onto larger and larger amounts of data, and run those really complex but really vital models so we can plan our infrastructure into the future.
So who is it for then? Is it for these scientists in these different fields to, like,
yes,
come together?
So it's for scientists working in engineering, planning. It very much affects the environment. So people might be working in environmental studies, how the climate affects where we build things, and if we build things, how does that affect things like biodiversity? It also involves people researching in things like healthcare or social mobility or employment and poverty, because how people interact with the infrastructure they live in, the roads, the railways, affects their employment, affects their life chances. So quite a broad range of researchers, and we're also working with their partners. So those researchers often work with people in industry or in government, large infrastructure suppliers, water companies, electricity companies, or government departments who are looking at where we should invest nationally into infrastructure. So yeah, quite a diverse range of partners we work with.
That's very complicated.
Well, it can get very complicated. Yes, this is why we want to provide a place where we can make that complexity manageable, or at least some place where we can deal with some of the underlying computing issues and allow those researchers to get on with the important task of exploring those spaces for future infrastructure development.
Well, in its third year, your team started to explore how DAFNI could support what's called the National Digital Twin Agenda.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What is a digital twin?
So a digital twin, it's been around for quite a long time, the idea of a digital twin. So this is where an idea that we build a model or a simulation inside a computer of a real physical thing. So we have a physical object, which we call the physical twin, and that is simulated by a model in the computer, which is called the digital twin. By running these things, by running this model in parallel with the actual system, we can monitor it and then predict its behavior. What we're looking at in the National Digital Twin is how do we extend that to model almost everything in our environment. So modeling the whole of our infrastructure systems.
So you mentioned government departments previously. Can you give me an example of how DAFNI helps a government department?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So we're working in the public sector in several areas. One example is we're working on a project that's looking at the effects of climate change. And a government agency called the Committee for Climate Change is responsible nationally for doing a risk assessment, a national risk assessment. They do it every 5 years. What we're doing is we're working in a project sponsored by the National Environment Research Council to use DAFNI as a platform to help the Committee for Climate Change, so we can better predict and adapt to the likely effects of climate change in 5, 10, or even 50 years' time.
Blowing, really. All of these things that connect to each other. It's amazing what DAFNI can do. So moving away from that and onto you a little bit, what does being DAFNI's group leader entail? What does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, well, I have a very varied job. I can't really say I do the same things every day.
What's your favourite part about your job?
Oh, that's a very difficult question, actually. What gives me satisfaction is when the team is working well and we're achieving something. So we've done some major releases just recently, and it's really nice to see the team coming together to build something and actually deliver something. It's also really nice to go out and talk to users and stakeholders and see how they might want to use DAFNI. And recently we had a launch event. It was really exciting to see all the other speakers and how they were all really enthusiastic about the various opportunities and potential of DAFNI, and we had a really good audience response. So that was very pleasing indeed.
So you feel like your hard work pays off from these?
Oh, well, I hope so. I think there's a long way to go yet, but there's lots of things to do yet. But yeah, I hope it's going to pay off.
So I just wanted to mention as well that earlier this year, the Natural Environment Research Council and Innovate UK funded £10 million to the UK Centre for Greening Finance and Investment. And at the heart of that is DAFNI. So first, what is the Centre for Greening Finance and Investment, and what role does DAFNI have in that?
So the Centre for Greening Finance and Investment, or CGFI, is a bit less of a mouthful. Again, it's looking at the impact of the environment, and particularly the impact of how environment may well change on how we invest in our country, and particularly it's focused at the finance industry, obviously a key industry in the UK and in the wider world, and it's looking at a particular what they call flagships, so particular areas where they want to invest in. One of which is infrastructure, but also in other areas. So there's one flagship on insurance industry, for example. The insurance industry is very sensitive to the environment. So how does the insurance industry adapt when you might get more flooding or more wildfires or more extreme heat events? These things that might be associated with climate change. So this new centre is bringing together a number of universities who have expertise either in environmental sciences or in sort of the interactions of the finance industry. Again, to bring together data, to bring together models, to enrich the capabilities of the research community to explore that space. And again, DAFNI is being used as a sort of hub to bring together those models and a way to maintain them for the long term. So we can take those and demonstrate those models to people outside the consortium, particularly in the finance industry. So there's a lot of interest amongst finance institutions, both public and private. I think that could have a real significant impact on the economy in the UK.
That leads us quite nicely onto the final question. What is coming in the future from DAFNI? What are the next steps?
Right, so yeah, as I said, we've been working on a 4-year program to do development. So in that time, we worked really hard on gathering requirements, doing lots and lots of pilots, a really intense implementation phase over the last 1.5 years. And we've now got a platform that is there, it works, it's got some really cool features. And we think it's now in a state where it's ready to be used. So what we're going to focus on over the next couple of years is expanding the number of users. We've got users on the platform who've been involved in our pilots, and we have lots of university partners who've been testing it and trying it. What we'd like to do now is build on that, so we have people coming on the platform and using it for real, if you like, to support their research. And we want, and extend the number of institutions that we were working with right across the country. And so that's going to focus on that. We also particularly want to work with centres of doctoral training. We think it's really important to get people early in their career to be familiar with what DAFNI can offer. So we plan to do training events and work with PhD students to introduce them to the platform to help their doctoral research. And the development of the platform is obviously is never finished. So there's lots of features and new things we want to add to the platform. So yeah, it's looking really exciting and really promising, and I really look forward to really getting the platform bedded down and really working for users over the next 2 or 3 years.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak.
Thank you.
Speak to me about this. It's been really interesting.
Thank you, Rebecca. Have a good afternoon.